My video for February the 9th, 2018 is entitled More on the Divine Secret Garden. John Panella's books, of which I have read the first 4, are certainly provocative. Of course, I don't actually read them. I have the computer read them to me, and I have gone back and listened to some parts more than once. The final chapter in the 4th book, in which he reveals his own experience, was one such repeat. It sort of sums up the whole story he is telling us. However, he does not recommend jumping ahead, advising us to take them one step at a time. Some of it was challenging for me, and I actually quit a few times for several days before returning. While I wish more of us were willing to investigate personal testimony like this, I know most will not. That's why he and many others see a great divide ahead for humanity. As it was written, quoting Jesus, the wheat will finally be separated from the chaff. Is that truly what will happen? And if so, is it imminent as many think? One friend sent me a clip from a Star Trek episode in which Star Trek Voyager Captain Janeway refused to return to the Archonic reincarnation cycle. On that, I certainly agree. And I'm going to actually start where I ended that blurb. Archons are just another name for the demons or the fallen angels, or at least that's how I see it. It's all the same dark agenda, the same group of beings that are malevolent in nature and liars and all sorts of things that they embody or encapsulate in their character. It is a fallen nature. It is a deceptive nature. And I agree with Captain Janeway when she recognized the Archon who had come looking like her father to try to convince her to go back into the light. And she refused. And I, applaud that. And I'm glad my friend sent me that, because I would have never I never saw that Star Trek episode, and neither would I have ever known it had it not been provided to me. So folks, hear what I'm saying. I appreciate it when you send me things that go along with what I'm talking about in my videos, because you never know, I may use that very thing in a future video to further explore the subject matter that we're discussing in these videos. And of course, that subject matter is more than just John Panella's books. I mean, I think he had a tremendous amount of courage to write some of the things he did, because he was in a fundamentalist church, evangelical fundamentalist church. I guess he was the minister of the church, but he began to embrace reincarnation. And so he was ostracized from his own congregation. And he recognized that in some of the dreams he was having and stuff. They were not accepting him because he had ventured outside the parameters of the controlled doctrine of the church, which is a doctrine of enslavement. It's an archonic doctrine. You have to understand that the Old Testament, and through some of the New Testament even, are very dark things that are interwoven into there. And if you're not discerning, and Mr. Panella absolutely emphasizes the importance of discerning the spirits, because the spirits are mixed. That's what the whole divide is all about, dividing the wheat from the chaff. Supposedly God said, well, if we try to separate it now, it's going to be messy, and we might get some of the wheat mixed up with the chaff, and you can't make a clean separation. How that's going to be done in in some event that takes place that separates that. I don't know how that's going to be, but I understand that principle, that you don't want to hurt those that are actually the wheat. You don't want to throw them out with the chaff. And this whole earth experience that we're in is absolute insanity, and it's getting more insane than ever. There does not seem to be an embracing of truth. On the contrary, the lines of demarcation, the separation, seems to be becoming more and more apparent all the time as the dark entities fight against any exposure of their wicked ways. And their wicked ways are horrendous. Folks, do you not understand that these elite beings have malevolently even violated the most innocent of creation, which is little human babies and little children? I mean, they are pedophiles, and that doesn't even, the word itself, most people, if you didn't understand the scope of it, how big it is, you wouldn't get the importance of how this needs to be dealt with. It can't, if it just keeps going on and on and on and on, then the creator himself becomes culpable, if he's not already culpable, he, she, it, because you can't allow evil to run anything. And I'm not against, as I said, I mean, he makes the point, and others have made the point, that the physical reality is where the illusion is. The spiritual reality is the truth, but the physical experience is just an illusion. It's not real. It's a delusion, if you will. I like having a physical body. Now, I don't know what it's like not to have one, and I don't want to be rolled into some mass of nothingness where there is no personal identity. Then what's the sense of ever having had a personal identity? If you're going to lose it, and you're going to forget that you were ever part of a whole. Now, part of a whole meaning that you all work together, that's okay. But part of a whole in which there is no me and no you, and we're all nothing, no thing. Anyway, folks, I'm wrestling with this. I'm struggling, if you can't tell. But I want there to be, if there can't be a total unification of everything, I want there to be a separation where the wheat and the chaff are separated, and where we're no longer forced to endure a deceptive, malevolent experience, because it's not worth saving if God isn't going to liberate us within the experience of trying to save it. You can't do it by letting the memory be wiped out, with the exception of just a few individuals that might have a better recollection of their, quote, previous life or lifetimes. Anyway, I appreciate the fact that some of you are listening, and I believe some of you are, as I am, struggling with this, trying to make sense of the world in which we live, trying to make sense of the fact that the people that rise to the highest levels in the monetary and political establishment seem to be some of the darkest control freaks and malevolent beings that could possibly be. We need real change, not just something to believe in. The swamp has to be drained. Donald Trump, do your job. Anyway, thanks for listening, folks. Namaste.